In the cold, silent prison room, something massive stood behind a thick glass wall. 12 feet tall, covered in dark gray armor, with glowing red eyes that never blinked. He had no name, only a code, X57. But the guards called him something else. Monster, one whispered. Mistake, said another. He was not born. He was created by science, by war, by fear. A living weapon built during the Galactic War. But when the war ended, no one wanted him. Too big, too strong, too dangerous. Now, he just stood there, still, silent, alone. The lights above flickered. Cameras watched him day and night. Scientists observed him from behind safe walls. No one dared to go near. For 5 years, he didn't speak, didn't move much, just stared at the walls. He was forgotten, until one day, someone new walked in. A young human woman wearing a white engineer's jacket and holding a datapad. Name was Mira. The guard stopped her. What are you doing here? I have clearance, she said. I'm checking the system wiring. Be careful, one said. That thing, ... It's not right. She didn't answer. She just looked at the creature behind the glass. X57 looked back at her. For the first time, his eyes moved. Just a little. Myra smiled. Hello, she said softly. The creature tilted his head. No one had spoken to him like that before. Over the next few days, Mira kept coming back. She would sit on the floor near the glass wall. Sometimes she talked. Sometimes she just worked quietly. She told him about her home on Earth, the blue skies, the oceans, the food. She talked about music, art, and stars. The creature said nothing, but he watched. Carefully, he noticed her smile. The way her eyes sparkled when she spoke. The warmth in her voice. One day, she brought a small speaker and played a song. A slow, peaceful melody. The creature closed his eyes. Just for a second, back in the control room, the scientists noticed. Something strange. He's reacting, one said. To her, another asked. No way. It's impossible. They called her in. Mira, you're wasting time, they said. He's a beast, not a friend. Stop going there. But she refused. He's listening, she said. It's not just a weapon. He's alive. They laughed. But they couldn't stop her. She had clearance. One evening, Myra brought a sandwich. She sat near the glass and held it up. You eat, she asked. The creature looked, slew. He moved toward the glass. The sensors went wild. Alarms beeped. Guards readied their guns. But X57 didn't attack. He just placed his hand gently on the glass. Huge, clawed. Scary, but soft. Mira placed her hand on the same spot. From the other side, their hands matched. One giant, one human. Silence then. For the first time in 5 years, the creature made a sound. Not a roar. Not a growl. A low hum. Deep. Sad. Mira's eyes softened. You're not a monster, she whispered. You're beautiful. To me? That night, the guards reviewed the footage again and again. He responded to her. What does it mean? Is he learning? Or is he pretending? In his cell, X57 picked up a stone and scratched something on the wall. The camera zoomed in. It was a face. Myra's face, drawn with claws, rough but clear. Her smile, her eyes. He remembered in the control center, an alien scientist watched the screen and frowned. This is dangerous, he said. He's not supposed to feel. We need to report this to the Galactic Council. The orders were clear. No more contact with the human. But it was too late. The monster was no longer just a monster. He was waking up, in the quiet of the night. Mira sat on her bunk, staring at a small screen. On it, she watched a replay of the moment again and again. The giant hand, the glass wall. her own fingers against his. And that sound, not a growl, not a threat, but a hum. A sound filled with pain. She didn't understand it, but she felt it. X-57. No, she didn't like that name anymore. You need a real name, she whispered, not a code. She typed a few ideas. One stood out. Zarek. Strong. Alien. But with soul. The next morning, she returned to the glass chamber. The guards didn't stop her this time. They just watched. Worried, Mira walked closer to the glass. Holding a marker, she wrote a word on the glass wall, big and clear. Xrukatha. Creature looked at it. Then at her. That's you, she said. Your real name? He stared. Then slowly, he touched the word with one giant finger. Something inside him shifted. Every day, Mira came. She brought tools, paper, colors, and questions. She sat outside the glass and asked him about his past. He didn't speak. But he listened. He always listened. Myra told stories about her childhood, about Earth, about her dog named Luna, who was scared of fireworks. She laughed when she spoke. Zarek didn't understand laughter, but he liked the sound. One day, Mira brought a scanner to fix the sensors near his chamber. While working, she cut her hand on a sharp metal wire. She hissed in pain. Blood dripped on the floor. Zarek, watching closely, slammed his hand on the glass. Boom! The guards raised their weapons. Stand down, a voice shouted. But Zarek didn't roar. He pointed at her hand. She looked up, surprised. You saw that? She asked. He lowered his hand, then gently tapped his own arm. A sign. A mirror. He was showing her he understood. Pain later that night, Mira sat in the control room with old Dr. Heller, a tall alien with green skin and cold eyes. This is dangerous, Heller said. He's bonding with you. So what? Mira replied. He was built for destruction, he warned. What happens when he wants more than your stories? Mira clenched her fists. He's not just a weapon anymore? Heller leaned forward. You don't fix monsters, Mira. You only teach them to hide. But Myra didn't stop next visit. She placed a sketchpad against the glass and drew a sun. Zarek watched. Carefully, she gave him a stick of chalk through the small feeding gate. No one had ever given him anything before, not even food by hand. He took it, carefully, claws shaking. Then, on the wall behind him, he drew something. It looked like a mountain, a star, a human figure. Ira's eyes widened. You remember? He nodded. Small, slow. But it was a nod news spread through the facility. X-57 is learning. He's remembering. He's changing. Some saw hope. Most saw danger. A private meeting was held. Alien generals, council watchers. Dr. Heller, the human must be removed. She's creating emotion in a creature with no soul. He may break containment, one voice said, or he may become something better. They voted. Myra's visits were banned. The next day, Myra was stopped at the lab entrance. Access denied, the security AI said. Why? New directive. Level 5, lockdown. She ran to Dr. Heller. You can't do this. We already have. He'll stop eating, she warned. Then he will be easier to contain. Mira stared at him with fire in her eyes. You're not afraid of him. You're afraid he might prove you wrong. 2 days passed. Zarek stood alone again. No stories, no colors, no music. He scratched at the wall. He waited. The guards noticed. His body temperature dropped. He refused his nutrient gel. And then, one night, the cameras caught something strange. Zarek sat in the middle of his room, silent, tears, thick, black and strange, slid down his face. Mira couldn't sleep. She stared at her access badge. Then, she made a choice. She grabbed her tools, her old codebreaker, and a small lantern. She knew the night guard's routine, knew where the backup door was. She slipped through the shadows and entered the chamber hallway. Alarms didn't sound. Not yet. She reached the glass. Zarek was there, sitting, weak. Pale, she placed her hand on the glass. "I'm here," she said. He looked up. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, he stood, shaky but alive. He walked to the glass and tapped. It gently, a single word appeared, scratched in the dust. "Myra?" She smiled, tears in her eyes. "We'll figure this out," she whispered. "Together." The cameras blinked red. The creature they once feared, the one they called X-57, was moving in new ways. He was sitting differently now. Not like a beast, but like a person. He no longer growled at the lights or clawed the walls. Instead, he waited, patient, quiet, and sometimes he smiled, not wide, not perfect, just a soft curl of his lips whenever Mira came near in the upper decks of the facility. The high-ranking aliens watched the recordings. One pressed pause on the screen showing Zarek drawing stars. "This shouldn't be possible," said Counselor Wren. "It's mimicking human behavior," replied Dr. Heller. Rapidly, "It's not mimicry," another added. "It's becoming something else." There was silence in the room. Heavy silence. Then one question filled the air. What is it becoming? Down in the chamber hallway, Mira stood at the edge of Zarek's glass cell. She wasn't supposed to be there, but no one stopped her now. She had support. A small group of humans, junior engineers, cleaners, even a cook had started standing outside the lab each day. They brought music. They whispered kind words. One even drew a heart on the wall. "Why do you care so much?" asked one security officer. Myra answered simply, "Because someone has to." Inside, Zarek was changing. Not just his behavior, his body was adapting too. The sharp lines of his armor had softened slightly. His movements were smoother, less like a machine, more like a living being. He was trying to sit cross-legged now, like Mira did. He tapped rhythms on the ground when music played. And then, one day, he spoke. Only one word, but it shook the entire station. He pointed to himself. "Zaruk." He said, clear, deep, slow. Then he pointed at Mira. "Mira." The control room erupted. He spoke. How he wasn't given speech protocols. "This is dangerous. He's learning too fast." But others disagreed. Or maybe he was never just a weapon. Maybe he was always more. Still, the fear was rising. If he could speak, what else could he do? Could he lie? Plan? Escape? The council sent new orders. Shut down the chamber. No more visits. Begin final containment. Protocol. When Mira heard the news, her hands trembled. "You're killing him," she shouted. Dr. Heller remained cold. "We're protecting the galaxy." From what? From the unknown. From whatever he's becoming. Mira looked into his eyes. "You're afraid of a creature who learned kindness?" That night, she made a choice. One more visit. One last goodbye. She entered through a backup hatch, keying in the code she had memorized in secret weeks ago. The chamber was dark. Zarek sat silently, facing the wall. The drawing of stars had grown now a hole. Galaxy covered the metal surface. He turned when he sensed her. No fear in his eyes. Only sadness. She ran to the glass and pressed her palm against it. "They want to end this," she said, voice shaking. "They want to end you." He stood, slower than usual. His body looked tired. He touched the glass, where her hand was. Then he did something new. He leaned his forehead gently against the glass. A soft, silent gesture of trust. Mira whispered, You don't have to be what they built you to be. You can choose. The next morning, the guards came with shock rifles, but Zarek didn't resist. He knelt in the center of the chamber, waiting still. Calm, the commander gave the signal. The team moved in to put him into stasis, but just before they reached him, the lights went out. Alarms screamed. Emergency lights flashed red. Containment breach. Sector 4 offline. And on every screen in the facility, a drawing appeared, a crude sketch of a girl and a giant, holding hands. Below it, a message written in thick white code. I am not what you fear. Panic spread. He hacked the system. That's impossible. He doesn't have access to the network. But he did, because for weeks, Mira had been teaching him slowly how to read, how to write, how to understand data. Not to escape, but to speak. And now he had. In the silence that followed, one alien general asked aloud, "If this creature is not a weapon, then what is it?" No one answered. But in the lower deck, Mira whispered softly as she looked into Zaruk's calm, glowing eyes. He's becoming human, asterisk. The sky above the space station was always quiet. Until tonight, it started as a whisper, a low vibration. Under the floors, then the lights flickered, then the sirens screamed. Warning, unidentified ships approaching. External threat detected. Myra dropped her tools and ran to the nearest viewport. Dark shapes moved across the stars, fast, sharp, and silent. Warships. Alien design, not friendly. Not registered, unknown. And many, the entire station moved into lockdown doors sealed. Turrets armed. In the deep levels of the prison zone, red lights painted the walls. Guards ran. Weapons buzzed. And in the center of it all, Zarek sat calmly. In his chamber, staring at the ceiling. He could feel it, the energy, the pressure, the fear. His claws flexed. Myra fought through the security checkpoints. I need to reach Sector 7, she shouted. It's sealed, a guard yelled. Everyone's ordered to evacuate. He's down there, they'll be trapped. Exactly the point. But she didn't stop. The invading ships hit hard. Explosions rocked the upper decks. Alien soldiers, tall and shadow-skinned, began storming the halls. They weren't here for war. They were here for something specific. Find the subject, one growled through a translator. Do not damage the human asset, said another. They moved fast. Hunting through the facility, in the control room, Dr. Heller stared at the hacked system logs. They knew about him. They've been tracking our transmissions. A technician said, they're here, for Zarek. Back in the chamber hallway, Mira finally reached the emergency override panel. Smoke burned in her lungs. Lights flickered. Sirens pulsed. Her fingers flew across the panel, trying to unlock the chamber. Behind the glass, Zarek stood now. He wasn't calm anymore. He looked at her. His red eyes glowed, not with rage, but with recognition. I'm here, Mira said. I won't leave you. The glass hissed. Then it opened, for the first time since his creation. Zarek stepped into open space. Free alien soldiers turned the corner. Weapons raised. Zarek moved fast, a blur of claws, muscle, and fury. He slammed into the first attacker, sending him into a wall. Another fired. Zarek caught the blast with his armored hand and hurled the soldier. Across the hall, Mira ducked behind a crate. She had seen him fight in old war recordings, but this was different. He wasn't mindless. He was controlled, precise, protecting. He's defending me, she whispered. The soldiers regrouped. 5 more ran in. One shouted, target located. Terminate the human. Zarek roared louder than anything the station had ever heard. And then silence. He stood over Mira. Arms wide, shielding her body. Blasts hit his back. Metal sparked. His knees bent, but he didn't fall. He wouldn't let them touch her. On the upper decks, surveillance picked up the fight. Commanders stared at the screens. He's fighting for her. He's saving a human. He's not the weapon we built. Dr. Heller's voice broke through. He's worse. He's choosing. Zarek lifted Mira in one arm and charged through the corridor. Carrying her to the emergency lift, she clung to him, her heartbeat racing. "Why are they after you?" she asked. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. They both knew, whoever created him had enemies. Enemies who wanted him back, or dead. They reached the central chamber. The heart of the station. Dozens of soldiers waited, too many. Myra looked at Zarek, her voice shaking. "We can't win this." But Zarek turned to her. He placed her gently behind a pillar. Safe. Then he stood tall. His voice rumbled, deep, slow, broken, but clear. "You are mine to protect," he charged. The battle was brutal. Claws met. Steel energy blasts echoed. Zarek fought like a storm, wild yet focused. He took hit after hit. But he never stopped. Not once did he look away from Myra. She watched through the smoke, her eyes wide, her chest tight. No one had ever fought for her like that. He wasn't just defending himself. He was choosing her. Again and again. Finally, the alarms stopped. The invaders retreated. Their ships vanished into the stars, and Zarek stood, covered in burns and cuts, his body shaking. He walked to Myra, fell to one knee, and whispered, "You are safe." She knelt beside him, holding his face in her hands. "You're not unwanted anymore," she said. "You're needed." In the silence that followed, across the entire galaxy, a question would echo. What happens when the galaxy's most dangerous weapon chooses to love instead of obey? The video went viral across 10 planets. A massive alien, once feared, once caged, shielding a human with his own body, standing between her and death, roaring, fighting, protecting billions. Watched, some were amazed, some were terrified. Some whispered, "This cannot be real." Others said, "It's already too late." On the edge of Earth's orbit, a massive council ship floated in silence. Inside, leaders of different species gathered, alien faces, human generals, machine minds, and hybrid thinkers. At the center stood a tall hologram of Zarek, frozen in battle stance. A voice spoke. He was not supposed to become this. Another added, the experiment was meant to end, not evolve. And a third voice, colder, sharper. The girl changed him. Now, he's unpredictable. Back at the damaged station, repairs had begun. Fires were out. Cracks were sealed. But tension hung in the air like smoke in the medical bay. Myra sat beside Zarek, who lay still but alive. His body healed fast, but his eyes stayed closed. She gently cleaned the burns from his skin. "You shouldn't have fought like that," she whispered, "but I'm glad you did." She smiled weakly. "They want to take you away, Zarek. They want to erase what you've become." His eyes opened slowly, red but calm. "Will you let them?" he asked, voice soft and broken. "Never," she said. A few hours later, soldiers came. Not with weapons, but with documents, an order from the Galactic Council. "Zarek must be removed from human territory," said the officer. "He will be placed in deep space containment." "For safety?" "Safety for who?" Mira snapped. "For everyone," the officer replied. "He saved this station. He is still classified as a military-grade threat." Mira stood tall. "You're making a mistake." She didn't wait. She called for a hearing, and the council agreed. Not because they trusted her, but because the galaxy was watching. Now everyone wanted answers. Is Zarek a monster, or something new? The hearing was held on neutral ground, a floating debate station between Metastiki Sa, between Metastic Saz and Ruby Skoo. Ruby Kiss, only Ruby Kiss has the luxurious texture. It's only Ruby Sis has the luxurious texture that glides on. Earth and the Council Core. Billions tuned in. On one side sat Mira. On the other, 6 alien leaders and Dr. Hilar in the center. Zarek, silent, surrounded by invisible force fields. His head was bowed. Not because he was afraid, but because he was tired of being looked at like a thing. Mira stood first. She didn't bring weapons, charts, or data. She just brought truth. I met Zarek when he was nothing but a ghost inside a glass box. She began. He didn't speak. He didn't move, because no one gave him a reason to. But then I gave him a name. Gasps echoed through the room. I talked to him. I listened. And slowly he listened back. He was not built to feel, one council member interrupted. But he does now, Mira said firmly. Not because of his body, but because of his choices. That's what makes someone alive. Then came Dr. Heller. He showed footage of Zarek, destroying enemy units in past wars. He showed classified files of experiments gone wrong. This creature is a weapon. No matter what soft words the human brings. He is dangerous by design. The room grew quiet. Then Zarek stood. The guards raised their hands, but he made no move to fight. Instead, he spoke, slow, rough, but real. I was built to end life now. I wish to protect it. Not all life. One life. He turned to Mira. She saw me. He looked back at the council. Now I see her. For a moment, no one moved. Not even the machines. Then a voice crackled through the speakers. A child from Earth had sent a message. The council played it. Saw the big alien hug the lady. The child said, "He's scary, but he looked like my dog when I was sad. Please don't hurt him. Let them be friends." Silence again, and then something strange happened. One alien general smiled. "Perhaps we are not judging a monster," she said. "Perhaps we are watching the birth of someone new." The council whispered, debated, voted. Mira waited, holding Zaruk's clawed hand, shaking with fear. Then a voice rang out. "The vote is in. Zarek will not be destroyed. He will be released, under Mira's guardianship." The galaxy exploded with reactions. Some called it a miracle, others called it madness. But one thing was clear. The beast and the human were now linked. Not by chains, not by war, but by choice. Zarek had never seen the sun before. Not through real skies. He stood quietly on a platform above Earth's clouds, feeling warmth on his skin for the first time. No glass, no chains, no alarms, just air. And light. He looked up, eyes narrow, red irises slowly dimming. "It's soft," he whispered. Myra stood beside him, smiling. "That's sunshine," she said. "Welcome to Earth." The news was everywhere. The galaxy's most dangerous creation is free. Alien weapon now lives among humans. Hero or hoax? People argued. Some feared him. Some cheered for him. Others didn't know what to believe. One thing was certain. Zarek was no longer a secret. He and Mira were moved to a secure research home in the mountains of Norway, far from cities, but still connected. A place to observe. A place to decide what he really was at first. Zarek didn't speak much. He sat for hours, watching the trees sway, the birds fly, and snow melt on his hands. He drew pictures in the dirt, simple things, circles, stars, stick figures, always one big shape beside a small one, always together. Myra watched from the window. "He's trying to understand," she told a reporter, "what it means to be alive." But not everyone was patient. On alien forums, angry voices shouted, The council has made a mistake. What if it turns on her? You can't. Reprogram a monster. And on Earth, protests began. A group formed outside the research base, holding signs. He doesn't belong here. Protect humanity. Myra is brainwashed. Inside, Zarek watched them through the cameras. He didn't understand the words, but he recognized the eyes. Fear, anger. He had seen them before, staring at him. From behind glass, later that night, Zarek sat in silence. Knees pulled to his chest. Myra approached, holding 2 mugs of warm tea. She handed him one. He held it gently, careful not to crush it. "Do they hate me?" he asked. "Some do." Myra said quietly, "Some always will." "Why?" "Because they see your body, but not your heart." He looked at his hands, thick, sharp, made for battle. "I was made to break things, maybe," she said. "But now, you're choosing what to build." The next morning, Myra did something bold. She asked Zarek to speak to the world, a broadcast, open, unedited, live. At first, he refused. "What if I say the wrong thing?" he asked. "Then say what's true," she replied. A week later, the broadcast went live. Over 40 planets tuned in. A simple room. 1 chair, a camera, and Zarek. He sat down, fidgeting, then looked directly into the lens. "I was built by minds that feared war, so they made me. Strong, cold, empty. But one voice, one person, did not fear me. She saw me. Now, I want to see more. I want to learn, not to fight, but to feel. I do not ask for trust, only time." Then he stood and walked away. The reaction was instant. Tears, anger, silence. Children sent letters. Artists painted him with wings. Some soldiers called him a brother. An alien poet wrote, "He was shaped by violence, but softened by a whisper." The council called again. "You've made him a symbol," one elder told Myra. "That was never our plan." "You never had a plan," Myra replied. "You had a cage." Back on Earth, Zarek received a package. Inside was a child's drawing, a big creature with a flower in its hand, smiling at the sun. On the back, in crayon, "You don't look like us, but you're good. That's enough." Aiden, age 6, Zarek, held the paper for a long time. Then he placed it on the wall beside his bed. That night, Myra found him sitting outside in the snow. "Cold?" she asked. "No," he said. "Just thinking." "About what?" "What I am," he replied. "I look like a monster. I feel like more." She sat beside him. "You are more. You're not your past, not your body, not your creators." She looked him in the eyes. "You are what you choose to become." He nodded. "Then I choose to protect me." Myra asked. He smiled softly. "You and others like you. Not because I was built to. Because I want to." Far above, the stars blinked, not watching, but waiting. The hall was silent. Billions were watching. A single beam of light fell on Zarek as he stood on the great platform at Unity Plaza, Earth's largest diplomatic stage. Built for peace, meant for truth. Myra stood at his side, her hand gently resting near his claw. They weren't alone. Representatives from 82 planets sat in front of them. Behind them, cameras floated like quiet eyes, broadcasting every breath across the stars. No guards, no weapons, just 2 figures. One human, one not. The council's voice came through the main speaker. "This is not a trial," the voice said. "This is not a war. This is a conversation. Speak, Zarek. The galaxy listens." He took one slow step forward. Even now, some flinched out of instinct. He still looked powerful. still looked sharp, still looked different. But his eyes were calm, his voice low and clear. I know what you see. You see what I was made to be. Big, strong, dangerous. He paused. But I ask you now to look again. He looked to Mira. She did. A screen lit up behind him, showing the image of that moment, the first time Mira touched the glass, unafraid. When everyone turned away from me, Zarek said. She leaned closer. The next image showed him shielding her from enemy fire. She didn't see a monster. She saw someone learning. Turned back to the audience. You gave me life. But she gave me meaning. People across the planets watched with full hearts. Children pointed at screens. Elders held hands. On Mars, a group of young students clapped. On a water moon in Sector 3. An alien artist began to paint Zaruk's face in soft blue. But not everyone was ready. From the crowd, Human General stood. You may have changed, Zarek, he said, but how can we trust that change will last? Your body was made for war. Your mind for tactics. Zarek lowered his head, then raised it again. Then let me prove it. By choosing peace. Every day, again and again. He stepped back, let the words float. Then Mira took the stage. I never thought this would happen, she said with a smile. I'd never imagined I'd stand here beside the very being they once locked behind. Steel. But here's the truth. She looked at Zarek. I didn't free him. He freed himself. She paused, tears in her eyes. By choosing kindness over anger. By choosing understanding over violence. And by choosing me. The hall remained silent. Then, quietly, a voice from the back whispered, He's not what he was. Another added, He's becoming more. Then someone stood, clapped, then another, and another soon. The hall erupted. A wave of applause filled the air like thunder. And in that moment, Zarek didn't look like a weapon. He looked like hope. Later that night, Mira and Zarek stood alone on a balcony, overlooking the glowing cities of Earth. Stars blinked above. You did it, Myra whispered. Zarek didn't reply at first. He looked at his hands. The same hands that once destroyed cities. Now holding a flower a child had given him earlier that day. Soft, alive. He turned to Myra. I never thought I could be anything more than what I was made for. She stepped closer. You were more. The moment you chose to be, even if no one saw it. You were always beautiful to me. He looked down at her. Not as a protector, not as a weapon, just as someone who felt seen. He knelt, not in fear, but in respect. And for the first time, he smiled fully. No hesitation, no hiding. Then let me spend the rest of my life proving you right. Above them, the stars moved slowly, not watching, but now shining just a little brighter.